Hi, this is Miss Andrea, and today let's talk about time for learning versus public school programs used at home. Um, I did a video based on this many years ago, and apparently it's my most popular video. But after watching it, it's clear to me that I needed to give more information and I needed to do an update on it. So this is going to be interesting because this involves a higher level of editing than I'm used to. Um, so let's see how it works. Here we go.
That Georgia has added their own homeschool curriculum um, to what is available to us. And a lot of new homeschoolers want to use that because it's like public schooling, only at home. That's what the commercial says. And it's free because homeschooling curriculum will either cost you a great deal of time, in pulling it together yourself, or a good deal of money in buying a prepackaged curriculum.
So basically, after homeschooling became really popular, and Georgia, where I live, is a state where it became incredibly popular. I guess the entire country's Department of Education started pulling together a public school sponsored homeschooling. It started out as a private homeschooling company. The very first one was K-12, and it was sold privately. But the states, one at a time, started paying their way into the program and then providing that to homeschoolers as a homeschool curriculum done at home. I don't like it, but for someone who's taking their kid out of public school or whose child has even been expelled, if you're in an emergency situation and you need to jump into something quickly, I'm not against it. But you're not homeschooling. You're doing public school in your home. And it's not easy. And let's continue.
I have problems with the what I call public school at home curriculums for many reasons. First, in that, what's the point of homeschooling if you're using the exact same thing they're using in public school? Your kid's time was being wasted in public school. This curriculum will multiply the amount of time being wasted because they're kind of going by seat time. The kid has completed a course if they've fulfilled the amount of seat time. But when you're teaching to one child, you'll find that time goes by very quickly. So there's a lot of seat time left over. And they fill that seat time with just a lot of busy work.
So basically, there's the concept of seat time, which is exactly what it sounds like. The amount of time your child would spend in a seat, desk, listening to and interacting with a teacher. And we know that a day in school takes all day, but the teacher's talking to 20 to 30 kids. One-on-one, that tends to go a whole lot faster. But the public school at home program, in my experience, has latched on to that seat time concept. And so to make public school at home equal, to public school at school, they have instituted seat time regulations where they give an amount of work that requires a child be in the seat for as much time as they would be in the seat were they in public school. Okay? And that's really unfair.
And there was even a time when I was tempted to look at this public school at home curriculum, and I called them and spoke to them, and I wanted to know, how flexible is it? Can my child do the work through 3 long days and have 2 days off to do other things that she or he is interested in doing? And the answer is no. You have to fulfill the amount of time they want you to fulfill per day, and you have to do it 5 days a week. There's no room when you use these public school programs at home, and there's no room to integrate your real life.
So in our case, the children, if you've seen my videos, the children were in a homeschool, school program. That there was one day full of arts, and then there's an academic day also, but my kids didn't do the academic day once they got into high school. So basically, we did fencing, they played piano, they went on theater competitions with the homeschool group. We did all these things and seminars and stuff. And when I called, because we explored the public school at home, Georgia virtual school, and there's another one like that, to fill in certain high school classes that were way, beyond my reach. Spanish 2, statistics, and we even tried them. When I made this video, I had only spoken of the lower grades. After that, I tried a different program in the high school level, and basically what happened is it didn't end well. I had to pull them out, take all their test work that they had done, use those grades, and then find a final exam, because they lost points because we were living. When you're homeschooling, you're also living. There's just 0 point in homeschooling if you're going to be tied to your house doing a normal school schedule. So that's how I feel about that. And it was stupid. And basically what the Spanish teacher said to me, because I said, this is what's going on. We have a week in South Carolina because she is at a theater competition. This is valuable. She was doing Shakespeare. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's valuable. Can we do extra work the week before? Can we do extra work the week after? And the teacher just pitched a complete fit. And he said something like, to get an A in my class, you have to spend 3 hours a day in my class. And I don't know how you're going to, make that up. And I said, 3 hours a day for one class. Okay. So let's say we did all 6 classes. That's 18 hours a day homeschooling. That leaves time for nothing else, let alone sleep and eating. So let's continue.
So, with that said, I just want to throw another curriculum into the ring that you may or may not be aware of. I used it when my kids were in the lower grades, and if you are a new homeschooling parent looking for a curriculum that's going to allow you to be flexible with your time while making sure your children's education is up to standards, which is a whole nother discussion we need to have at a later time, because I think we worry too much about standards, but it's just where people start, so I guess it's a point that needs to be addressed. So
in that clip, I introduced Time for Learning, and I'm gonna We're going to talk more about that in a minute, but let's go ahead and talk about standards. The reason I use public school at home is to stay step for step with the public school standards, the scope and sequence, the whatever you want to call it, that the schools are doing. Very valuable if you're taking your kid out to homeschool for 6 months and putting them right back in. Why would you do that? Or if you're in an emergency situation and you're going to homeschool for a minute and maybe next year you're going to put them back in. I guess they don't lose pace and then they don't have to get tested back into high school when you're done. That's uber cool. Time for Learning follows the same standards, and even for most states. So yeah, it costs, but it's just way more flexible than the public school at home program is. And even as I'm going through my current series on college prep homeschooling, you notice I talk about being stringent and, using curriculums and documenting them and how to grade and stuff, but I never mention standards. When your child goes to apply for college, they're not going to ask you for an IEP. They're not going to ask you if you met state standards. They're going to want to see your kid's SAT score or your kid's ACT score. They're going to want to see a killer essay, and they're going to want your child to make eye contact with them at the interview. So let's continue.
If you're looking for a curriculum that's going to be incredibly flexible and make you comfortable that your child's education is up to standards, then you want to look at Time for Learning. Time for Learning starts in kindergarten and it goes through the middle school grades. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade doesn't cover all subjects, but it covers the basics like language arts, math, and there's an honors algebra, and there's some other things, but at that point you might start wanting to graduate them to a higher level curriculum anyway, but I would still keep Time for Learning for those subjects.
So I recently corresponded with the guy who owns Time for Learning just to see how the curriculum had changed, and here is what he said. The curriculum now goes up to high school. It kind of went into middle school before, as high as algebra. It actually goes up through high school. We added a preschool, science K through 2nd, because there wasn't science for every grade, because science is not needed for every grade. Not the lower grades. Middle school science as well. There's a high school private kids forum, so they made a forum so kids using Time for Learning can talk to each other. Not quite sure how I feel about that. We have integrated planning tools and a way students can go straight from planner to their lessons. I never had trouble tracking, but having a planner is a good habit for kids to have. The price for elementary is $20 a month, and for high school is $30 a month. But they have, can you believe the elementary price hasn't changed in 15 years? Anyway, 15? Yes. We put in discounts off of Time for Learning. When a member takes a Time for Writing course, take the Time for Writing course. It's separate, but you either want to take the Time for Writing course or you want to hire a writing tutor. Or signs up for vocabulary, spelling city playlists, or foreign language. Time for Languages. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're going to be reviewing Time for Languages because that was our roughest subject, which we will talk about in a later video. Okay, so that's where we are with that. That's how Time for Learning has changed since I have used it. Let's continue.
Curriculums over the years, and you just really can't beat the price of it. What I like about it is that it's online and it's interactive. Um, for me, when we started homeschooling, for many years, our children had been on computers. Our children were practically born with a keyboard mouse, in their hands. And so I wanted their homeschooling to keep going in that direction of being internet based because they were really comfortable with it.
So what I liked about Time for Learning, then a lot, most of the other curriculums have caught on and made them Time for Learning and, not textbook and CD based anymore. Um, it's animated, it's online, it's pretty easy to track. Every week, every day, every hour, if you please, you can go in and print out the work your children have done. Our Time for Learning years, there was just a binder per year per child, and it was great, especially in the lower grades, because you could show, that your child passed a certain grade. Um, and the price is just right. Why would you use it besides that it's independent of schools? Because you can do it any hour of the day. You can do it quickly. I mean, if you've heard my other video, my daughter did third and fourth grade in 1 year on Time for Learning, and she learned the stuff. It wasn't just, do it and forget. Like, she knew the information. And that gave her a lot more time to free up her homeschooling the next year, because she literally spent the very next year pretty much just reading. Um, so yeah, I'm biased. I love it. It worked for us. I recommend it to any new homeschooler starting, because it takes a lot of the worries away of what if homeschooling doesn't work. Well, this program will make sure your child knows whatever they're missing in school, and it's standardized by states. Other programs are, but none of them are priced like this one is. I mean, if you have 5 kids, it's still under $100 a month, and I don't know any private school that's going to give you that. Um, yeah, so that's pretty much how I feel about that.
If you're trying to decide where to start your kids, you can do free homeschooling that takes a super amount of time, or you can pay $20 a month, which isn't a lot to ask, to have the same standards but a ton more flexibility. I mean, the option is yours, but I'm telling you from experience that this is the way you want to go. Um, so take care. That's all I have for now. I hope my video was informational, and if you have any questions, please um, leave a comment. Thanks a lot.
Now, with all that good stuff I said about Time for Learning, I need to go ahead and give you the negatives. The negatives are that my children, who are now grown, 21 and 23, remember Time for Learning as having been boring. The first 2 years they used it, they were happy. They absolutely loved it so much. They felt like they were playing, and newsflash, they were also getting an education. So I beg to differ with their recall of how it went. However, around fifth grade level for each of them, they kind of zoned it out. They found the tutorials a little patronizing. They thought it was a little childish. And with the addition of the high school grades, it's a little more grown up. But what I'm going to do is link you to some current reviews of Time for Learning so you can see what it's like now, and you can sit with your kids and see if it's something they want to do. But once again, public school at home, whether it be K-12 or Connections Academy or whatever, name your state virtual school or name your state virtual academy, it's just a matter of homeschooling is supposed to be freedom. And it's free, and you might even get a free computer per child. Tempting. But the cost isn't necessarily worth what you're trading in. So thanks a bunch. Till next time.